Hello everybody. As you may know, Valorant is being released on June 2nd. So before then, I want to show you guys all the guns, how to use them, and when to use them. Okay, we'll start off with the classic. So this is the free gun you get with every round. It's quite popular on pistol rounds, along with the Ghost. If we look at its damage, you can see at close ranges, it will 2-tap the head against fully bot players. At long ranges, it will take 3 shots. Now, on pistol round, most people are, well, that's not true. Some people are going to buy armor and abilities, other people are going to buy Ghost. Now, the Ghost people, you can actually head body them. So, that's one reason why Ghost is not one of the best pistol round buys, because you can't buy armor with it. Now, if we look at the Ghost, you can see that it only does 105 damage, so it will not one-tap a person who buys classic and armor. So, they kind of balance each other out in that fact. Anyway, onto the shorty. The shorty, it's not a great pistol round buy. It's better to complement a sniper rifle for the close range benefits that it provides, because one, it's got 2 shots, so you miss your 2 shots, you have to reload, and if they peek you, they know you have to reload after those 2 shots, so they can easily peek you and get a kill. And on pistol round, say you're holding an angle, like a close angle defender's pistol round, and then the attackers push a different site, well then you have to rotate in, and now maybe you have to hold an angle like this with your shorty, and that's not going to work very well with a 2-shot shotgun. So that's why I would not recommend the shorty very often on pistol round, especially for defenders. Onto the frenzy, it's got very similar damage to the classic, however, it's fully automatic. It's not like the CZ in Counter-Strike because it has significantly more ammunition. The CZ, you had 2 magazines. This one, you actually have 4, so you can take a little bit more risks. It's quite accurate at range, so if you see up to about 20 meters, you get decent accuracy. You can hit pretty good slow tap headshots, and, well, the spray control, it gets pretty wild after the first few shots, so best to keep the full auto mode to close ranges. Onto the Ghost. It is quite accurate at long range, so I'm guessing we can go 30 and still... I gotta clear that. Yeah, so it's very accurate at long range if you slow fire, but if you start shooting quickly, you can see that the spray gets quite random, adds a lot of spread in. So this gun is best used at long range, shooting quite slowly, so that your recoil has a chance to calm down after every shot. It's $500, which makes it a relatively common pistol round buy, because that still lets people buy abilities. Onto the Sheriff. I would not recommend buying this pistol round, just because it's $800, meaning that will take up all of your money on pistol round. You will not be able to buy armor or any abilities. Most agents would rather have their abilities than a gun that can't even one-tap at long range. Past 30 meters, it will do 145, which means it's not great on buy rounds either, because if the enemies have full armor, at long range you will not be able to one-tap them. In pistol round, yes, you will be able to one-tap people at any range, which is a slight upgrade from the Ghost, but it does have the downside of a smaller magazine, not a ton of reserve ammo, and it will prevent you from buying anything else. Okay, on to the SMGs now. Here we have the Stinger. At $1,000, it is quite cheap. It's very good for a second round force if you win, because second round, a lot of the enemy team, if they lose, they'll be buying either like Ghosts or possibly just full saving with classics, which makes the Stinger quite good second round because, well, it shoots incredibly quickly. It shoots actually 18 rounds per second, making it the fastest gun in the game. However, its low capacity of 20 bullets means about that long your magazine will be empty and you'll have to reload. So you have to hit your shots quite easily, which is difficult to do at long range because, as I already showed over here, the spray goes everywhere at long range. However, it does have a nice burst fire feature when you ADS, which is, if you just shoot it, it's not too accurate, but if you pull down a little bit when you shoot it, you can see you get quite a bit of accuracy at range. Now, a lot of people will forget that it's in burst fire mode when this, and they'll just hold down the button and they'll be like, why isn't it shooting? So one thing to remember is you have to press left mouse button again every time you want to start a spray. But at long range, it makes it a somewhat viable option. Onto the Spectre at $1,600. It is a common like eco buy when you can't quite full buy it, but you still want to have a gun to stay in the game. It's got much easier to control spray at long range. That was me with spray control. Just that's what it looks like with nothing. It's not too hard to control at range. It does decent damage. Very similar to the Classic, but it's fully automatic. It shoots very quickly, 13 rounds per second, so that's faster than any of the rifles. But ideally, you will have to hit headshots with this if you're fighting rifled players, because its lower damage means you won't be able to kill them quite as quickly. Onto the shotguns. The Bucky at $900 is the cheapest non-pistol in the game. So, it's good in a couple situations. At long range, you can see that the circle around my crosshair is quite large, so that's indicating where the pellets are going to go. So that's a right click, that's a left click. So at really long ranges like that, it's not going to make much of a difference if you use right click or left click. But if I go close range, you can see the left click will shoot all the pellets, and the right click will only shoot one. Now you might be wondering, why would you ever use the right click if it only shoots one? Well, at long range, you can see if I right click and left click there, the right click has a much tighter spread, because it actually shoots one pellet that actually explodes into the rest of the pellets after traveling a certain distance. So the issue with that is, if I pull some bots, and I right click one very close, only that one pellet hits, and therefore it takes several shots to kill the bot. Whereas if I right click him from back here, the pellet will pop into more and kill him effectively. Now if I went at the same range and left clicked, you can see it wouldn't do enough damage. So you need to right click at medium ranges and left click at close ranges to get the most damage out of the Bucky. So it makes it unique for sure. But even like you can see the damage fall off past 12 meters, it basically becomes pretty useless even with the right click fire. Now the Judge, it also has a damage fall off past 15 meters, which it's quite extreme, but you can see if I crouch, look at that spread. That's incredibly tight spread for a shotgun. It's also fully automatic, so even though I was not able to kill him on the first or second shots, it shoots so quickly that it makes the Judge a viable option. At $1,500, there's not a ton of situations where I wouldn't want to go for a Spectre or an Ares instead, but for sure it is an option if you're doing a close angle, probably better than the Spectre or the Ares if you're holding a really close angle. Onto the rifles now, we have starting with the Bulldog. I don't really like the Bulldog. It's quite cheap at $2,100, meaning it's a lot cheaper than all these other rifles. But in a lot of situations, if I have enough for the Bulldog, I would just go for a Spectre instead and try and upgrade to a Vandal or Phantom next round. Simply because if I buy the Bulldog, even if we win, I might not have enough money to upgrade next round, and I'll be stuck with the Bulldog for several rounds in a row, which is not great. You can see it has the exact same fire rate as the Vandal at, oh wait, no, it's actually a tiny bit slower, 9.15 for the Bulldog, 9.25 for the Vandal, and headshots don't kill. That's why I don't really like this one. They won't even kill light bot players at point blank. The range doesn't really matter here. You can see from 0 to 50 meters the damage stays the same. It would take 5 body shots to kill a fully bot player. It just doesn't have enough damage for me with the spray. It's not too hard to control. I just don't like the spray. What I do like about the Bulldog is its burst fire. So if we clear this and put it out to 50 meters, like look how accurate that is. That's one burst. And if you aim down a tiny bit, you can see the burst is almost perfectly accurate. So right there, 300 damage. We hit so many headshots on that guy. If you can hit accurate bursts with this thing, it will double head or even body double head them consistently. This is the one reason why I think the Bulldog is better than the Spectre or the Ares. Onto the Guardian, at 2,700, it's only 200 cheaper than the Phantom or the Vandal. So basically, if I had only like $800 left after buying a Vandal, and I couldn't quite buy these heavy shields, I would probably sell the Vandal, buy Guardian, and then go heavy shields, because the Guardian is not that much worse. In some situations, it's actually better. So the fire rate is not great, but you have to manually click, so you're oftentimes not going to be hitting the fire rate anyway, because it's a semi-automatic gun, so you have to click each time you want to shoot. It does more damage than either of these rifles to the body or head, meaning you can kill a fully bot player in 3 shots to the body or 1 to the head. It has medium wall penetration, which is the same across the board for the rifles, and its scope is actually slightly better than the other scopes. So this one, it will zoom you in 1.5 times, whereas the Vandal and the other rifles will only give you 1.2 times zoom. 1.25 actually times zoom. With 12 bullets in the mag, you have to reload it quite frequently, but for $200 cheaper, this is really not a bad option. Phantom. So the Phantom at 0 to 15 meters has exactly the same damage as the Vandal. So if you're going to take engagements between 0 and 15 meters, you should get the Phantom every time, because of its higher rate of fire, you will kill people faster with this gun than you would with the Vandal. It has the same scope, and a slightly higher ammo capacity than the Vandal does, so 30 on the Phantom, whereas the Vandal only has 25. Some people will like that, because you'll be able to take longer fights. Now the main issue I have with this gun is that at longer ranges, you will lose your one-tap potential, so at 15 to 30 meters, you'll only be able to one-tap light armored players, whereas at long ranges, between 30 and 50 meters, you won't even be able to one-tap light armor players. You will do 124 and leave them with 1 HP. So that is why I usually buy the Vandal. For the same price, it will do a one-tap at any range, but it will fire slower. So at close range, if a Phantom and a Vandal were both shooting each other in the body, the Phantom would win. So with this gun, you really have to be going for the one-taps. Now, what should be noted with both of these guns is, and actually the Spectre and the Sting are, yeah, just the Spectre, the Phantom, and the Vandal, when you ADS with them, it will actually slow the fire rate down. So, it's nothing too significant, but it can make a difference. That's why, here, I'll show you the difference. So, that's just regular fire, and that is with the ADS. It's a slight difference. So if it's enough to be, though, if you had 2 Vandal players both shooting each other in the body, and one was ADS, the person without ADS would win that fight every time. So I would highly recommend the Vandal. That's my rifle of choice, although the Phantom is also very good. Okay, moving on to the snipers. The Marshall at $1,100 is one of my favorite second round buys if we win the pistol round, and the reason for that is it does 101 damage to the body. Now oftentimes, if you lose a pistol round fight, you will not be buying much at all. So a lot of people don't actually buy light shield second round, which makes the Marshall basically an off, because it can one tap to the body. It also fires much quicker than the op, and is quite accurate without scope. So you can see that I'm able to consistently hit shots without a scope. It's not accurate enough to do a shot at like this range, but for that, it obviously has the scope. And at $1,100, it makes a pretty mean eco weapon. Now for the operator, it fires significantly slower, but it does have a double scope, so you can hold longer angles with it. It can one-tap to the body against fully bot players, doing 150 damage. It should be noted that it will not kill them even if you clip it just through a tiny wall. So if I make sure bot armor is on, and I clip this guy just through a tiny wall, I don't know if I hit him, but I don't know if I'm hitting him, but he would not die even if it went through a tiny wall to the body, because it only does exactly 150. So you will not one-shot fully armored players through a wall. It does have high wall penetration, so you'll get a lot of damage on them. If you hit the headshot, it will basically instantly kill them. It does 255 damage. Onto the LMGs. They're called heavies, I guess. Ares at $1,600. It's a close competitor with the Spectre. It shoots at almost exactly the same fire rate. However, it does have to spin up, so it will start slower and then increase in rate. So listen to this. You can see how the fire rate actually increases the longer I fire, but the longer you fire, the more difficult the spray becomes to control. Well, ADS, the same thing happens, it's just a bit more accurate. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does have high wall penetration, so if you're ever like wall banging a box or something with an LMG, it's going to be quite effective, more than a rifle even. But you can see if I miss my first few shots, the spray gets incredibly random with this gun, which is where the Odin actually comes in. There's not very many situations where I'd recommend the Odin over a Vandal or Phantom, just because it costs more. It does not have one-tap potential against any amount of armor at any range, but it does have an incredibly high fire range, so you can hear it also has to increase its fire rate like the Ares, unless you ADS. The Ares does not do this, but if you ADS with the Odin, it instantly locks to its max fire rate, which is incredibly high. And spray, you can see it's quite wild. If I just don't control it, it goes up quite aggressively. So if you aggressively control it, you can get quite a lot of kills this way, especially with the massive magazine capacity. I still wouldn't recommend it over the Vandal, but it is quite good if you find one on the ground. As for shields, I would always recommend buying at least light shields, even second round if you lose, because that will stop the Marshal from one-tapping to the body, and it will also stop the Phantom from one-tapping to the head at long ranges, which is pretty huge. If you get out on 1 HP, hopefully your Sage can heal you back up to 100, and you'll be able to go back into the fight. As for heavy shields, when you can afford them, obviously buy them, because that will it will increase the number of body hits it'll take from any gun to kill you. So yeah, that's the LMGs and the armor. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great time on June 2nd when the game comes out, and I hope this guide helped you.